It's time for the Court Report, our bi-weekly segment with the Upper Midwest Law Center. They are a nonprofit public interest law firm on the front lines, dedicated to defending constitutional freedoms and the rule of law.
Love having Doug Seaton come on the program, founder of Upper Midwest Law Center. Doug, thanks for being here.
Glad to be here, Al. Thank you very much for having us again.
I'm going to ask you to take us behind the curtain for just a second, because as we're getting started, you show up a couple minutes early, get ready to do the show, and I'm, of course, all day today just riling on my insurance fiasco I went through. And you're out there, we're just having this conversation, and you know everything about it. I mean, you've been in it, and I'm thinking to myself as we're starting, so you're an expert on health insurance. You're going to have to be an expert on First Amendment and my right to free speech. You got to be able to, what do you have, 5 or 6 lawyers? Right?
6. We're up to 6.
6.
Now.
Okay. So your Monday morning meetings, you all sit around a big, and I presume it's a very fabulous looking table. You got a big table and you're sitting around, and each one of those guys is throwing out, hey, I'm working on this case. And Doug Seaton's like, oh yeah, did you think of the thing? You got to know like a lot about everything to do what you do, don't you? I mean, this isn't, I just specialize in car crashes. This is a lot.
It's a lot of different territory, and it can be very daunting, and all you can do is say, well, Minnesota needs us, and we're going to have to just find a way to cover the waterfront here, because few other people, there are others, but very few others are doing exactly what we do, saying we're going to take on all comers where there is a case that fights for our liberty, no matter what territory it is in legally. That's what we try to do.
It's got to keep you awake at night, but on the other hand, you got to know you're just out there fighting the fight. The one that gets me is, we talked about this before, the case that this group wanted to do religious conversations with the men in prison.
Yes, exactly.
Now,
yes.
For the life of me, I can't imagine who would object to such things. These people got a tough time going on. Maybe little God will help them out. But where was this? This Minnesota Department of Corrections. What jail was this?
It was St. Cloud where this started, and they're happy to do it anywhere they can get a foothold. But they've been in St. Cloud for years and years. Pastor Schmidt, Tony Schmidt, did this for many years. It was very positive. It's a rehabilitation program focused on the men. It's a men's prison, and trying to give them some direction to help get them out of their, the mindset that led them into crime. And it's been working terribly well. I guess that's the problem, apparently.
Well, see, this is why I don't even understand the argument on the other side that somehow this could be horrible. Let's just say it didn't work. Now, I'm a big guy. I think it works. But let's just say it didn't. But as I understand it, they weren't forcing prisoners to go to the class. They asked if you wanted to. Now I'm sitting in my jail cell for 23 out of 24 hours a day, and they offer me the opportunity to go see Mr. Schmidt, talk about, I'll take it. Give me an hour off. Let me go. What in the flipping harm is going on here? But they sued, right? They told him he couldn't go in anymore.
They told him he couldn't go. They evicted the program, been in the prison for years and years, and said, you can't do this. But it's okay for the Wiccans to be here and a bunch of other recently invented religions, but not Christianity, according to the Bible. That was the problem. It literally, they said, it violates our DEI principles, so we're kicking you out. And you can't have and what they're going on to say in the case is it develops in the depositions, Al, is they're saying, oh no, we don't allow anybody to talk about traditional family and a biblical view of family life, traditional family, and a view of men and women's roles, very equally important roles in a traditional family. Oh no, you can't talk about that. Literally. Okay, that's what they said again and again and again.
Okay, so the pastor gets booted out. He comes to you. Somehow you found out about it, and you're like, hey, this is against our religious freedoms. If a man wants to sit in jail and wants to go to class, he should be able to go to class. But you just had a deposition with this whole thing, right? I mean, what funny for me, and I'm sorry because I think most of us think this way, Doug gets a case. 3 years down the road, Doug wins the case, because that's what happens. You always win. But we don't realize all the steps in between. So you were just with that case, which we talked about a year ago at least, that case, you were just doing depositions now?
Yes, yes, and you're right, Al. What happens is terrible and unfair, but it is the process we have. We go to court, we file the case. The opponents, usually the state, the school district, sometimes a private actor too, says, "Oh no, you're not allowed to have this case. You can't go to court. There's something technically wrong with your case." And then we
Okay.
have to fight our way all the way up to the appeals courts to even get the case moved forward on the real issues. That's what happened here. We first had to
Okay.
go all the way to the appeals court to get it confirmed after the initial judge dismissed the case, saying, "Oh, yes, they have a right to proceed with this case. It's a genuine First Amendment case. Public actors cannot pick and choose the viewpoints they like. They can't do
Yeah.
it. That's what the First Amendment's all about." And so only now are we actually having the kind of discovery that should have happened a year ago and more. And that's what happened, as you said.
Okay. So then the discovery comes out. You're in having deposition of these people. I don't want to put words in your, but you're a wee bit shocked at the other side's comments about what they're sticking up for. Can you tell us without breaking any rules? What were you shocked about?
I'll do my best. It is something I guess we shouldn't be shocked, but we still are to hear this kind of thing. They say on camera, as it were, in the deposition. We've got the transcript. These are officials of the corrections department saying, "Oh no, we can't have the traditional view of family portrayed or represented in the prisons. We just can't have that. That's against our own religion." That's not how they put it, of course, the DEI religion. "So we're not going to let you speak about it." They say, "Oh, we can't tell you what the difference is between a man and a woman." They go on and on in a way that ought to deprive them of any right to represent people in Minnesota. We know most people in Minnesota don't believe any of this nonsense, but these are the ones running our state. They're the ones who have this deep-dyed ideological point of view, and they don't want anybody else to speak because they're trying to indoctrinate us all. That's what they're trying to do. School, prison, wherever it is. That's what they try to do.
So
I
don't mean to laugh, but you're literally sitting across from lawyers, I presume, talking with somebody that runs the DOC, and he is talking about not having a clue what men and women are as he's defending the St. Cloud men's prison?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
You don't...
Okay. Which leads you to believe, what's the intake procedure around here? And you'd be right to it, because they are indeed putting so-called transgender men in the prisons and vice versa in the women's prison. That is the ideological blinders they have got on. It's the emperor has no clothes in every form you can imagine all over the state.
See, and I see most of us just want to look the other way. It's happening in prison. It's not my business. I don't care. But we supposedly want to rehabilitate people. We want to get them to come out at some point and be better people. So we leave the pastors out because pastors talk about men and women in the traditional sense that there are two. Yeah. So we want to cut that off. We want to say, no, we're not allowed to speak about men and women. Where does the free fall stop?
Where does it stop, Al? We're very worried that it doesn't stop at all, and they're going to just keep pushing. And the reason we are thinking that is we see this happening again and again. We have it happening also with the colleges and the teachers, would-be teachers we are talking to, who say, in order to get a license for our teacher program or as an individual teacher to get licensed, I'm going to have to say, I'm going to have to disavow my religious faith. And that's probably true for Christians, it is, but it is also potentially true for Jews and Muslims as well. We can't have a traditional, all three of the Abrahamic faiths believe the same thing essentially about family, and they're going to be told you can't have that view and get licensed to teach, because they're trying to limit the teaching field to the propaganda clique that they've already got in charge of the schools.
When you get a guy who does that on the other side, guy, gal, sorry, whatever it would be, on the other side, and they're saying we can't describe men and women, how do you take that to the judge then? I mean, you're trying discovery here. I mean, you've obviously found out the people in charge are just we on the wacko side. What I mean by this is, do you go to the judge and say, Judge, let's take this to its furthest route? Guy gets put in jail or convicted of something, and he says, I'm not a man or a woman, I am a cat. Are you going to send them to the pound? Is that what we're talking about? Because they're going to just go to the Hennepin County Humane Society? Of course not. This is crazy.
You would hope, of course not, but as I say, we've seen some pretty bizarre outcomes with this line of so-called thinking. We don't think it's thinking at all. We think it's people who really lost their minds, and of course these ideas are receding in the rest of the world, thankfully.
Yeah.
But we still are fully in the palm in Minnesota of the hand of these zealots, I'm afraid. And this is one example of it. Now, some of this is not directly relevant to the case, but we think indirectly it really is. And it undermines their credibility as to how they make these decisions. They're supposed to be neutral actors. They're supposed to allow every viewpoint. 100 flowers bloom. That's supposed to be the public actor's point of view here. And yet, that's not they're doing.
Well, I got to go to break, but tell me where this case goes. So you got more discovery, more people to do depositions on. When do you look to even see this in front of a judge and say, Judge, look who you're talking? And will that same person sit on the stand and say the same thing in front of a judge?
Well, very good question. And we're hoping we can go to an early kind of motion hearing where we have a chance to say to the court, they have no basis for this at all. No. And we should get summary judgment so we can get this issue resolved for once and all and have an appeals court decide definitively they just can't do this, period. That's what we need to have. And I hope we'll get it. We will get it sooner or later.
So you are in the mix of everything. We're going to talk about that Walgreens case coming up next. I've got him, Doug Seaton. He is the guy at the Upper Midwest Law Center. Stick around. A lot more coming up.
Are you tired of government overreach and the constant threat to your constitutional rights? The Upper Midwest Law Center is your legal sword and shield. We're a nonprofit law firm fighting every day to defend free speech, religious liberty, and the rule of law. We secure landmark victories that restore school neutrality, protect property rights, and hold government accountable. Our mission is to ensure liberty endures for all Minnesotans. So if you or your business is facing a constitutional violation, we want to hear from you. Learn more and support our work at umlc.org. As in alligator. L also in alligator. But it's not alligator. It's the Al Travis Show.
As we move along, trying to get our, An honorary doctorate of law with Doug Seaton. I'm learning so much; it's unbelievable. Let's talk about the Walgreens case. If I'm not mistaken, basically the case is there's some pharmacists that are like Walgreens that feel uncomfortable giving out abortion pills, some medicines. And for the most part, the company's large enough. Somebody else who doesn't have that issue can fulfill it. But they said, no, we're not making that accommodation anymore. You do what we tell you, doctor, and that's what you got to do. Where's that case?
Yes, it is a very interesting case, Al, and it's got First Amendment issues in it as far as the state's concerned, and it's also got the protections and the discrimination laws for religious practitioners in private employment as well. This is a private employer, of course, Walgreens. Now, we've got two pharmacists who for a long time have been able to manage their own beliefs with Walgreens needs to have these drugs dispensed to those who want them and are willing to get them. And it's both abortion drugs and as sex change drugs. They call them gender affirming drugs. We don't go along with that line of language. It's really sex change drugs.
Sex change, yep.
And so they've said, no, we've got other pharmacists willing to pick this up for us. And Walgreens has done that for years. All of a sudden they say, no, they can't do it anymore. And this has happened before in a lot of other accommodation areas we've worked in, that it just stops. And in this case, they're blaming the state. Walgreens is blaming the State Board of Pharmacy, saying, oh, no, the State Board of Pharmacy says we can't allow you to do that anymore. We can't accommodate you. And so we're not sure who's to blame, but we're going to find out. We're going to pursue the case, and either Walgreens or the state or both are going to be on the hook for violating these two pharmacists' rights to be accommodated in their religious beliefs. And if it's the state, then it is if they're the culprit, then it's a First Amendment issue because the state can't suppress this point, a religious point of view, as we've just discussed in the Schmidt case and the teacher licensing cases that we've seen, curriculum cases. So it's them or it's Walgreens, because in the case of Walgreens, they've got a duty to accommodate religious beliefs in terms of the discrimination laws and the religious practice laws that apply to private employers as well. So we've had motions already, and the case is winnowed down a little bit. It's changed. It's all kind of legalistic to describe all the claims. Some stay, some don't. But we're going to go forward on the main cases. The main part of the case, Walgreens motions were largely denied. So these two pharmacists are going to have their day in court, and we're going to win this one too, because the First Amendment and the religious liberty discrimination laws require this accommodation to be continued. And we had similar things happen with the Federal Reserve failing to accommodate religious beliefs. In a similar situation, in a vaccine case where someone declined to take the COVID vaccine. And the same thing happened elsewhere as well. So we know this fight, we know what happens, we know how it goes, and yet we still can't get compliance for the basic rules of religious life in the private and public sector, which are that you get to practice your faith as long as it doesn't create terrible problems for you and substantial, if your accommodation is going to cause substantial harm to you, then you have a right to say no. But this is not one, as you described, that does that. They can do this easily. They have been doing it.
See so that's why, again, I don't know, and we'll find out how quickly will this move along. I presume Walgreens has got a ton of lawyers on staff, and somebody's told them the exact same thing as you just said and said, hey, buddy, this doesn't fly. And they've been doing it for so long, so I can't imagine it's really on them. This is going to be you going up the state, in my opinion, that they said, no, we're not doing this. We believe in transgender affirming care. You mark my words, Doug. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make any sense for Walgreens to go change. Just the bad publicity alone wouldn't be worth it. You know what I'm saying?
You would think so. You would certainly think so. I'm a customer. I don't like what they're doing in this case. I wait in line like everybody else, and if somebody had to say, oh, I can't do that, Joe over here will do it, that's okay with me. And that's what they got to do. And we will be having them do it sooner or later, either the state or Walgreens involved or both.
All right. So with our last minute, sir, if somebody's listening to the program and they keep hearing all this wide array of cases that always break down to somebody going against your rights, right? I mean, that's what you do. It's not you're not looking for somebody bumped into my car and I want damages. So if it's going against your rights, somebody said, I got one just like that, and they have a thing. How do they get to Doug? How do they get to the Upper Midwest Law Center? How do they let you tell them if they got a good case?
Well, as you know, and you've said, and the commercial interspersing says, you get a hold of us through our website. You send us an email, describe what the problem is, and we do our darndest to get back to everybody. Now, we can't call everybody, so we're reduced usually to an email response. But if people send us the facts and the circumstances, what they're hoping to get from this, who's involved, et cetera, the real facts, then we will get back to them. And I just did that yesterday and once more with a couple of others every single day. And I'm the main intake person here.
Yeah.
That's my job. I talk to people. I communicate with them. We get the information and we try to give them some guidance. If we can't take the case, we try to give them some guidance as to what they can do,
And is there anything to the idea that people call you Old Ironside? Wasn't that the guy who never lost a case ever in the 60s? I think that's what they're calling you now, Doug. I think it was Ironside, wasn't it?
There was a guy like that. I don't claim that fame, but and we don't win them all, but we certainly win more than our share, more than anybody had any reason to think we would.
Absolutely. Doug, I appreciate you being on the show. I do. I find this fascinating. At some point, I'm getting my honorary law degree just following along with all you win. It is, of course, the court report right here on the Al Travis Show. Get you back in a couple weeks, sir.
Thank you, Al. Talk to you then.
That's the Court Report with the Upper Midwest Law Center, with some insights into their mission to defend liberty and the rule of law. For more information on the cases and issues we discussed today, and to learn how you can support their fight, visit umlc.org. We'll see you in 2 weeks for the next Court Report.